Exposed. Written by Suzana Thompson. Narrated by Lauren Sweet. Chapter 3. Mason had bought me a real maid's uniform. The straight skirt even came down to my knees. Nobody would mistake this plain style for a sexy costume, so it wouldn't be that embarrassing to be seen in it by my classmates at Mason's party. I could pass it off as a real job. I gazed at my reflection in the mirror. With my curves covered up and my hair in a ponytail, I looked less like my blonde bombshell mother. Without any makeup, I was fresh-faced with only my baby blue eyes drawing attention with their vivid color. My mother didn't even look up from her phone to notice that I was wearing a uniform as I walked past her. As usual, my dad was the only one who questioned where I was going.
"When did you get a job?"
"I'm just starting today," I replied, inching toward the door.
"Where are you working?"
he asked. "It's a catering company," I lied. "They do parties and I'll be serving appetizers."
"What's the name of the company?"
"I forgot. My friend's mom does it out of her house, and we're working for her. I've really gotta go. I don't want to be late on my first day. Thanks for letting me borrow your car," I said as I rushed out the door. I mostly loved the fact that he took such an interest in my life. He had become the father I'd never had, and I adored him. Until now, I had no reason to keep secrets from him. I hated lying to him, but I couldn't tell him about Mason blackmailing me. The last person in the world I wanted to disappoint was my dad. I shouldn't have been drinking at all, let alone drinking enough to black out. I would never get drunk again. No alcohol would pass my lips tonight, that was for sure. The irony was that I had often wished that I could go to one of these parties. Unlike Addison, I had never desired popularity, but I didn't like being shunned either. Everyone had started ignoring me after Mason began bullying anyone who tried to be friends with me. Since he was popular, he got all his buddies to back him up. No one wanted to be targeted by them because of me, so I was left out of everything. That was why I was so grateful to finally have a friend, and why I was so desperate to keep her that I had gone along with everything she suggested the previous evening. She had urged me to keep drinking, so I did. Since she hadn't been as smashed as I was, I could only assume that she had only pretended to keep drinking with me. She was at Mason's house when I arrived, and she wasn't happy to see me. "What the hell, Mason? Why is she here?" Addison apparently wasn't bothering to address me directly anymore, and it reinforced the realization that she had been faking her friendship with me. Being friendless again hurt worse than it had before. Mason had wounded me more by giving me a false friend than by denying me friends altogether. I felt the loss more acutely. Blinking away the tears from my eyes, I reminded myself that she wasn't worth it. She was one of them now, the shallow people who only cared about themselves, the people Mason surrounded himself with, the people who were just like him.
"Because I told her to be here,"
he snapped at Madison.
"She does what I tell her to do."
Her scowl turned into a deep frown. "She already cleaned your house. What are you going to have her do now?" His eyes narrowed at her.
"Are you going to nag me about everything? Because that's getting old fast."
Realizing her precarious position, she tread carefully. "It's just, I thought you got what you wanted. You made her miserable, and now—"
"I'm just supposed to let her walk away?"
he cut in.
"She's miserable for one day, and that's it?"
"But how is letting her come to your party making her life suck? This is what she's always wanted," she said, mistaking her own desires for mine. He reprimanded her before I could.
"Are you stupid? Do you really think she wants to be here? As a maid?"
"Guys think that's sexy. I bet she'll get hit on all night," she remarked flatly. Mason eyed me with displeasure, seemingly disliking that prospect as much as she did. He had chased away all my potential boyfriends from the first day of high school, making sure that I had no social life. I should have realized that it was a trick when he allowed me to socialize with Addison.
"Don't talk to anyone,"
He told me.
"You're not here to flirt. Just give them their drinks. Got it?"
I nodded, but that didn't satisfy him.
"Answer me."
He demanded. Yes, I've got it, I said.
"What did I tell you were the only 2 words you are to say to me?"
Yes, sir, I huffed with an eye roll.
"With respect."
He snapped angrily.
"If you don't show me respect, I'll make you the center of attention tonight. All my guests will see your picture."
Yes, sir, I repeated in a chastised tone, with my eyes downcast. Sir? Addison questioned, her voice rising in indignation. You're having her call you sir? I knew this was some kinky sex thing. Otherwise, you would have had her doing your homework and stuff like that, instead of dressing up as your sex slave. I would have let you tie me up if I knew you were into that. You don't need to blackmail her into doing it. I thought you hated her. He regarded her with disdain.
"I don't need any help with my homework. And I sure as hell don't need to tie a girl down to make her my sex slave."
So you're admitting you had sex with her? She said, looking like she was either about to lose her shit or cry.
"I don't have sex with my maid,"
he yelled, startling her out of her meltdown.
"She's beneath me. Do you understand? That's what this whole thing is about. She is here as a servant, and she will know her place."
I wanted to tell him that he was full of shit, and that he was born a few centuries too late to get away with that condescending crap, but I held my tongue. Mollified at last, Addison directed a mocking smile at me. You better remember your place, Ella. Yes, ma'am, I retorted. Serving your boyfriend. All day and all night. A small smirk played over my lips as I gazed at her with a wicked expression. He likes when I'm beneath him. Her smile withered, while cold fury emanated from Mason. I could sense it without looking at him, so strong was his effect on the atmosphere. It chilled me, even as my pulse spiked with the fight-or-flight response to imminent danger. I did neither, as I held the ground I had gained on Addison. Her jealousy had revealed her weakness to me, and I stomped on her with glee. My revenge was gratifying and sweet. She would not get the better of me at least.
"Get to your station."
Mason's tight, terse voice snapped me out of my gloating stare-down with Addison. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I replied, injecting saucy, flirty enthusiasm into the words. Where do you want me? I asked, infusing the question with unmistakable sexual innuendo. His glare hardened into the cold stare of a predator.
"On your knees,"
he commanded, with an icy calmness that conveyed complete control of the situation. A moment ago, his voice had been stretched taut with barely contained anger, but the deliberate intimidation of it now was much more threatening. I didn't dare to defy him, but I hesitated in fear.
"Get on your knees,"
he said, with that same frightening composure. I obeyed, sinking down slowly with a feeling of inescapable dread. He stepped forward until he was standing directly in front of me. My face flooded with the shame of being in this subservient position with his crotch at my eye level. My gaze lifted to his with the horrified realization that he would expose my naked picture to everyone. Because I wouldn't do this. No way in hell.
"Respect,"
he warned.
"The next time you start playing games with me, I'll call your bluff. Got it?"
Yes, sir, I answered. my voice tremulous with the relief of being spared exposure.
Get up,
He ordered. I did, but that brought me up close to his face. I dropped my eyes from his intimidating stare as I took a step back away from him. "I'll take care of you, Mason," Addison said. My gaze turned toward her, and I watched her approach him. When she boldly placed her hand on his crotch, I looked away. More heat flooded my face as she offered to go up to his room with him and give him a blowjob.
I have guests arriving soon,
I heard him say, seemingly as unaffected by her offer as I was uncomfortable. "I'll get you off fast," she promised.
No,
He stated flatly.
come here, maid,
He called to me as I cringed in embarrassment for Addison over his rejection of her desperate attempt to please him.
Your station is in the kitchen.
He led me to where he had a keg of beer set up on the counter, along with stacks of red Solo cups.
You fill these for people.
I nodded in agreement, although I hadn't needed it explained to me.
Answer me,
He demanded. "Yes, sir," I responded.
Look at me when I address you.
He ordered. My gaze shifted from the keg to him. "Yes, sir," I remembered to say.
Good. It seems like you know your place now.
He remarked, but his tone was too neutral to be mocking me. His gaze became cunning as he regarded me, and it made me nervous about what he was plotting.
You told me you're not like your mother.
He said. "I'm not," I replied. He gave me a warning look.
What are the only 2 words that should come out of your mouth when you speak to me?
"Yes, sir," I answered. His features eased into an appeased expression.
So, you still think that you're not like your mother?
I nodded in confirmation. "Yes, sir."
Yet you tried to seduce me.
I shook my head in denial. "No, sir, I was just—" He cut me off by moving into my personal space.
What are the words?
"Yes, sir." I supplied the correct answer as I instinctively put more distance between us. "But I wasn't—"
I'm not interested in your excuses.
He interrupted me again.
You tried to seduce me right in front of my girlfriend, which actually makes you worse than your slutty mother.
"I was just getting back at Addison for what she did to me. I wasn't trying to seduce you, and you don't care how you act in front of her anyway. You tried to make me—" I trailed off, my rant petering out with my reluctance to name the act.
That's more than 2 words,
He commented.
but I'll let it slide this time. Go ahead and finish your sentence.
I waved that offer aside. "I'm done."
No,
He insisted.
your sentence is incomplete. What did I try to make you do?
My gaze shifted nervously away from him as I tried to think of a reply.
Look at me when I speak to you.
He commanded. I complied. "Yes, sir," I said, in the hope that it would placate him.
Speak,
He ordered. I shifted from one foot to the other under his unnerving gaze since I was forced to look at him. "You, tried to make me give you, you know, what your girlfriend wanted to give you."
What, exactly, did she want to give me?
He asked coolly. The need to look away from him was too great, and I did as I spoke the words. "A blowjob,"
You act so innocent,
he said, before swooping in to whisper in my ear.
but your panties were soaked.
Before I could recover my wits, he was back out of my personal space.
Isn't that right?
He asked. I flushed from head to toe as I recalled returning the previous uniform to him, along with the black panties that came with it. Utter shame overwhelmed me, and I couldn't look at him.
Answer me.
He demanded.
Isn't that right?
With my gaze fixed on the floor, I took a steadying breath.
Eyes up here.
he ordered. My face burning, I forced myself to look at him. Yes, sir.
They were soaked?
He pressed, drawing out my humiliation. Yes, sir, I said.
So that means you're like your mother.
I gritted my teeth, defiance rising within me despite everything. I peed myself, sir. He stared at me for a couple of seconds before barking out a laugh as his eyes lit up with comprehension.
Nice try,
he said in actual amusement. He took a step forward and leaned in toward me, his voice dropping in volume.
But I know the difference.
He leaned in even closer to whisper in my ear.
You were soaking wet. For me.
When he pulled back to look at me, his heated gaze changed what had been mortifying to something erotic. Once again, we stared at each other in a haze of lust until ringing snapped us out of it. This time it was the doorbell. Mason! Addison yelled from the other room. Someone's here! She sounded panicked, but I felt disoriented. What the hell was happening between Mason and me? How could he desire me if he hated me? And how could I possibly be attracted to him after how he had treated me? I had my mother's looks, so maybe that was all it took for a guy. Yet girls were supposed to need more than that. I was supposed to be attracted to the person rather than just his exterior. Mason's physical beauty could make most girls jealous while simultaneously swooning over him. Just his lustrous, dark locks alone were enough to inspire envy. The loose curls always looked perfectly tousled and touchable. He possessed those rare silver-gray eyes which were so arresting and unique. Their luminous color was strikingly set off by lush, dark eyebrows and lashes. A straight, patrician nose was another perfect feature on his handsome face. Then there were the kissable lips that had whispered in my ear. Just the memory of that made me hot, which was really twisted and wrong. I must seriously need a boyfriend if my tormentor could turn me on so easily. But he was the one who wouldn't let me have a boyfriend. Anger sparked within me again. I had to get out from under his thumb. I longed to have the kind of experiences that most girls had. My first date, first kiss, first boyfriend. All of those had been denied to me by Mason. I'd gone to one school dance with a boy back in 8th grade, but I had turned my head away when he tried to kiss me. I hated to remember that now, because Mason had been the cause of that too. Ever since I'd become infatuated with him when I saw his picture, I'd had a stupid fantasy about him being my one true love. I'd imagined that he would fall in love with me too when he saw me, just like in a fairy tale. I had put him up on a pedestal and cast him in the role of Prince Charming, and nobody else could measure up. When I saw him on my first day of high school, I thought my dream was coming true. I was sure that destiny had brought us together, and my heart swelled with happiness and adoration. Mason's reaction was quite different, however. There was a hard, cold glint in his beautiful eyes, and his lips formed a cruel smile as he approached me.
I've got you now, Ella,
he said, but it didn't sound romantic at all. The reality of meeting him was all wrong. I couldn't rejoice in the fact that he knew my name, because there was no warmth in his voice when he said it. His statement was a threat, and he carried through on it. He did nothing to me directly, but he bullied everyone who got close to me until I had no one. I asked him why once. Back when I first found out that my friends were dropping me because of him, I approached him to ask why he was targeting me.
I haven't done anything to you,
he replied coolly. He had spread rumors that my mom worked as an escort and got paid to have sex with rich men. But I didn't mention that to him. You're making all my friends drop me. Why are you doing this to me? I've never done anything to you. You don't even know me."
"You can't blame me for losing your friends," he stated. "It sounds like they just don't like you anymore."
"That's not true. They said that the mean girls are making their lives hell, and they said they'd only stop if they stopped being friends with me." He smirked at me.
"The mean girls? Am I supposed to understand your ridiculous references? What do these mean girls have to do with me?"
I flushed, both in embarrassment at how immature he made me sound and with secret jealousy. "You're dating their leader," I said, and blushed furiously as I heard how silly that sounded, phrased that way. He regarded me silently with an unnervingly focused scrutiny that assessed all my responses. It was the first time I saw that predatory gaze, and his tone held a deadly calm when he spoke.
"You've come to me because you think my girlfriend is responsible for you having no friends."
He had thrown me off kilter, and my voice didn't convey as much conviction as I felt. "You put her up to it."
"Why would you think that? Who are you, by the way?"
Tears of frustration sprang to my eyes. "You know who I am. You talked to me on the first day of school, and you knew my name. Why are you being so mean to me? Please just leave my friends alone."
"The friends you don't have?"
he inquired. I saw that I wasn't going to get anywhere with him by pleading my case, and that he apparently had no sympathy for me at all. There could only be one reason why he disliked me so much. "Is this because of your dad?" If I thought that his gaze was intimidating before, it turned downright menacing now. I shrank back from him, even though he hadn't moved from where he stood.
"Don't ever say anything about him again,"
he warned me. I spoke timidly. It's not my fault." His cold stare looked through me.
"Get out of my face."
It was spoken so calmly, but carried such an underlying threat that it intimidated me into hurrying away from him. I didn't try to talk to him again until my date for homecoming canceled on me without explanation. He had a black eye, though, and I suspected I knew who had given it to him. This time I was so outraged that I didn't wait for an opportunity to catch Mason alone. His girlfriend was right beside him when I marched up to him. "You asshole! You beat up my date! What the hell?" He looked down his nose at me.
"Who the fuck are you? And what the hell are you screeching about?"
"I'm Ella Chase, and you can go fuck yourself, you fucking asshole."
"Such language,"
he chided, infuriating me even more. His pretty girlfriend confronted me. "What is your problem?" I turned some of my ire on her. "What is your problem? Can't you think for yourself? He tells you to pick on my friends and you just do it? Why? I've never done anything to you." "He told me how obsessed you are with him, and I can see he wasn't exaggerating," she replied. "He tried to let you down nicely, but you didn't even care that he has a girlfriend. I guess it's no surprise with how you were raised. Still, I'm warning you, stay away from my boyfriend." "I don't want your fucking boyfriend," I exploded. "I just want him to leave me alone." She wrinkled her pert little nose at me. "He wouldn't touch trash like you. Who knows what kind of diseases you have? I heard one of your mom's customers paid you to do a mother-daughter thing with him. That is so gross." Rage overcame me at hearing this, and I flew at Mason. "You lying asshole!" I screamed as I pounded my fists against his chest. "It's not my fucking fault your dad died. He had a heart attack, you stupid—"
"Shut up,"
he roared, grabbing my wrists and silencing me with a look of such intense hate that I wilted under the force of it. All the words dried up in my throat as he stared me down. His girlfriend was shouting for a teacher and yelling about how I had attacked him.
but I stood trapped in Mason's grip and his vicious stare. "I warned you," he said quietly, before letting me go. That ominous threat chilled me with dread about what he would do next. But it had been more of the same until he used Addison to get me to let my guard down. Now he had ensnared me in his twisted game of revenge. But his hate didn't seem to be as strong as before. It was all confusing as hell, and I just wanted it to end. But I could see no way out of it anytime soon.